You don't join special forces, you earn it. Every rank, every patch, every skill identifier on your sleeve represents a threshold most soldiers never cross. This is what it actually looks like to climb through the Green Beret ranks, from the day you walk into a recruiter's office to the day you command teams operating in countries that don't officially host American troops. Private E1. You're 18, maybe 19. You signed an 18X contract, which means you walked into a recruiting station and told them you wanted special forces. The recruiter probably laughed, not at you, but at your timing. You're skipping the traditional path. No conventional unit assignment first, no years building a resume. You're going straight into the pipeline, and the pipeline has a failure rate that should terrify you. It doesn't, though, because you're 18 and you think you're invincible. Basic training at Fort Moore. 10 weeks of learning how to be a soldier before you can even think about being a Green Beret. You wake up at 04:30, you run. You do push-ups until your arms shake. You learn to shoot, to march, to follow orders without hesitation. Drill sergeants scream in your face about discipline and attention to detail. You think this is hard. You have no idea what hard means yet. Of the 240 guys who started basic with you, everyone graduates. That's by design. Basic isn't selection, it's baseline. Airborne school at Fort Moore, 3 weeks. You learn to jump out of perfectly functional aircraft. Week 1 is ground week, endless parachute landing, falls on sawdust pits until the motion is muscle memory. Week 2 is tower week, jumping from 34-foot towers and the 250-foot drop. Week 3, you make 5 jumps from a C-130 or a C-17. If you complete all 5, you get your wings. One guy in your chalk freezes in the door at 1,250 feet. He doesn't jump. He's gone the next day. You jump. The opening shock hits like a car crash, then silence, then the ground rushing up faster than physics should allow. You land, gather your chute, and realize you're not afraid of heights anymore. You're afraid of not being good enough for what comes next. Special Operations Preparation Course. You're still a private, but now you're training specifically for Special Forces assessment and selection. 19 days of ruck marches, land navigation, obstacle courses, and psychological conditioning. They're preparing you for SFAS by breaking down everything comfortable. You ruck 12 miles with 50 pounds, then 15 miles, then 18. Your shoulders develop calluses where the straps sit. Your feet blister, heal, blister again. Instructors watch how you handle stress, how you problem solve, whether you help struggling teammates or focus only on yourself. The guys who only care about their own performance wash out. Special Forces is a team sport. Private First Class, E2. Automatic promotion, 6 months after E1. It means almost nothing except slightly more pay. You're still at the bottom, still unproven. Special Forces assessment and selection, 24 days that determine everything. You're at Camp McCall, North Carolina. Isolated, Spartan. The cadre doesn't care about your PT score or your motivation. They care whether you can think clearly when you're exhausted, navigate accurately when you're lost, and maintain discipline when every part of you wants to quit. The land navigation courses are brutal. You're given a grid coordinate, a map, a compass, and a time hack. Find the point, get your card marked, get the next grid. Sometimes the points are 7 kilometers apart through dense forest and swamp. You navigate alone. No talking, no help, just you and your ability to read terrain. Guys quit every day. They ring the bell or stop showing up to formation. Of the 300 candidates who started your class, maybe 180 will be selected. You don't know if you're one of them until the final day when they read names. Your name gets called. You feel relief, then immediate dread, because selection was just the entrance exam. Specialist E4. You pick up rank while waiting for your security clearance to process. Every Green Beret needs a top secret clearance, and the investigation takes months. They interview your high school teachers, your ex-girlfriend, your neighbor from 5 years ago. They're looking for anything that makes you a liability, financially, personally, or ethically. You wait. You train. You wonder if something in your past will disqualify you now after you've made it this far. The clearance comes through. You're headed to the Special Forces Qualification course, the Q course. This is where they build you into a Green Beret. It lasts over a year, and it's divided into phases, each one designed to add another layer of capability. Phase 1, Small Unit Tactics. You learn advanced patrolling, ambushes, raids, reconnaissance. You operate in small teams, planning and executing missions with minimal guidance. The standard is higher than anything you've experienced. A passing grade in Ranger School might be failure here. Phase 2, your military occupational specialty. You choose, or you're assigned based on the needs of the regiment. Weapon Sergeant, 18B, Engineering Sergeant, 18C, Medical Sergeant, 18D, Communications Sergeant, 18E, Intelligence Sergeant, 18F. Each MOS requires months of intensive training. If you're 18D, you're learning to perform emergency surgery in field conditions. If you're 18B, you're becoming an expert in every weapon system on Earth, foreign and domestic. 18. Charlie, Engineer Sergeant, that's your track. You learn demolitions, explosives, breaching, how to calculate charge sizes for different materials, how to build bombs from hardware store components, how to destroy a bridge or reinforce a compound. You blow things up in controlled environments until the math is instinctive. Too little explosive and the target stands. Too much and you've just announced your presence to everyone within 5 miles. Phase 3, unconventional warfare. Robin Sage. This is the culminating exercise, 2 weeks operating in a fictional country with guerrilla forces played by role players. Your team infiltrates, links up with resistance fighters, trains them, plans missions, and conducts direct action raids against an enemy force. It tests everything simultaneously. Your MOS skills, your tactical judgment, your ability to work with foreign partners who don't speak English and don't trust you yet. Some guys fail here, this close to the end, because they can't adapt or because they make a critical error that gets their team compromised. You pass Robin Sage, you graduate the Q course. At the ceremony, they hand you a Green Beret and a Special Forces tab. You're a Green Beret now, but you're still a specialist. Still junior, still unproven in the only place that matters. Sergeant E5. You earned it through time and performance. You're assigned to a Special Forces group, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, or 10th. Each group has a geographic focus. Yours is 3rd Group, Africa, and the Middle East. You're on an Operational Detachment Alpha, an ODA, a 12-man team. This is where the real work begins. Your first deployment, Africa. You won't say which country because half the operations aren't acknowledged. The ODA sets up in a compound that looks like every other compound. Cinder block walls and dust and a generator that runs 6 hours a day. You're training a local partner force, soldiers who speak 3 words of English and carry rifles older than you. Your job is to turn them into a functional fighting unit in 8 weeks. The work is grinding, teaching room clearing to men who've never seen tactics beyond spray and pray, teaching land navigation to soldiers who can't read a map. Your team sergeant, a guy with 7 combat deployments, tells you something you'll remember forever. We're not here to make them Navy SEALs. We're here to make them good enough to hold their ground when we leave. You run ranges. You plan missions. You go out with the partner force on patrol and watch their discipline improve slowly, painfully, 1 repetition at a time. Then the mission comes. Intelligence identifies a target, a facilitator moving weapons across the border. Your ODA and 30 partner force soldiers are going to hit his compound at dawn. The planning takes 2 days. Routes in, routes out, contingencies for every scenario. The team sergeant runs the brief, and you're responsible for the breach. You've done this 100 times in training, but training doesn't include the variable of 30 soldiers you've known for 6 weeks who might freeze or panic or accidentally shoot you in the back. The infill is a 3-hour movement in unarmored trucks over roads that barely exist. You hit the compound at first light, the breach goes clean, the door comes down, your partner force floods in behind you, and the target is flex cuffed in his bedroom before he's fully awake. No shots fired. Perfect execution. You're back at the compound by noon, writing the debrief while the intelligence guys exploit the target's phone. The high wears off in about an hour, replaced by the knowledge that you'll do this again in 4 days. And again after that. This is the rhythm. Train, plan, execute, debrief, repeat. Staff Sergeant E6. 3 years in group, 4 deployments. You've trained partner forces in 7 countries and conducted direct action raids on 3 continents. You're a team leader now, running a small element within the ODA. The newer guys look to you the way you look to your team sergeant on that first deployment. Syria. Your ODA is embedded with Kurdish forces fighting ISIS. The mission is advising. but advising is a flexible term when the advisors are special forces and the enemy is 2 kilometers away. You're calling in airstrikes, coordinating resupply, planning assaults on fortified positions. The Kurds trust you because you've been in the fight with them for 3 months and you haven't left when it got dangerous. One night, the compound takes indirect fire, mortars landing in a pattern that walks closer with each impact. You're in a bunker with your team and a dozen Kurdish fighters, waiting for the barrage to end or for one of the rounds to land directly on top of you. It doesn't. The attack stops. You go back to work. The next day, you're on a rooftop coordinating an airstrike on an ISIS position. The JTAC talks to the pilot. The pilot confirms the target, and 30 seconds later, the building disappears in a fireball that you feel in your chest from 800 meters away. The Kurds cheer. You mark the grid and move to the next target. This deployment lasts 6 months. You lose weight you can't afford to lose and sleep in intervals measured in minutes. When you get back to Fort Bragg, your wife says you look different. Older. You don't disagree. Sergeant First Class, E7. You've been in Special Forces for 8 years. You're the team sergeant now, the senior enlisted leader on the ODA. You run everything. Training, operations, personnel. The captain commands, but you make it happen. This is the role you've been building towards since selection. Your ODA deploys to the Middle East. The mission is classified, but it involves working with a partner force that operates in areas where American soldiers don't officially exist. You plan raids, you advise on tactics, and when the situation requires it, you go with them. The line between advising and participating blurs in hallways at 2 in the morning when rounds are impacting and decisions need to be made immediately. You bring everyone home, all 12 men on your ODA. That's the standard and you met it, but the cost is invisible. Accumulated stress that lives in your shoulders and your sleep patterns and the way you scan rooms even when you're in a restaurant in North Carolina. Master Sergeant E8, 20 years in. You're at group headquarters now, shaping policy, mentoring the next generation. Watching new privates show up with the same look you had 2 decades ago. Some will make it, most won't. The ones who do will carry the same weight you carry, the operations that don't make the news, the decisions made in seconds that echo for years, the knowledge that you were part of something most people will never understand. You look at your shadow box, the beret, the tab, the combat patches from a dozen countries. They represent a life spent in places you can't talk about, doing things you can't describe, with men who became brothers. That's what every rank cost. That's what it means to be a Green Beret.